Hello, any YouTube friends out there. I had made my first video talking about how I'm currently training for my first ever full marathon, which is about 5 weeks away. And I also chatted about how I wanted to do a little video just talking about how I trained for my first 3 half marathons, which I did all 3 of those just in the past year of 2024, a couple months apart. So before I kind of started about my little journey and what I did, I just wanted to share out like a few tips to begin with. So for anyone that may be watching that has never done a half marathon but wants to, is thinking about it, just know that like me, even if you are currently right now not a runner at all, as long as you can walk/run, it is never out of the realm of possibility for you to be able to do a half. If you wanted to start a training plan, you want to think about where you're at right now fitness-wise, what you're capable of realistically. Also that, you can sign up for a race that is several months out, maybe even a year or more out, and start your training, just at the level that you're at right now. So even if you cannot run for a mile, even if you can't run for a minute or 2 minutes straight, you can build a training plan that will absolutely get you to a half marathon. Or even if it's, a 5K, a 10K, it doesn't have to be a half, but that's what I'm talking about today. You can absolutely build a plan that will get you there 100%. So what you want to think about is just how you can be consistent in meeting yourself where you're at. I think a good rule of thumb is to think about building in an overload week by week. And it doesn't mean like overload, like you're going crazy right off the bat. Let's say right now you can walk for about 10 minutes and then you start getting out of breath. Fine. So start your first week, plan 3 walks for yourself. Try to make, 2 10-minute walks. Make your long walk at the end of the week a 20-minute walk. And even during this time, if you're taking breaks to catch your breath, doesn't matter. Just continuing and finishing those, 2 10-minute walks and then that 20-minute walk. Over time, you're going to be able to build off of that. You're going to be adding a little bit more and your endurance is going to be building. Or if you're someone that can run and walk right off the bat, start there. Do, your 2 run walks during the week. Let's say if you can go 1 or 2 miles, wonderful. Do running and walking, get to your 1 to 2 miles. Even if that is, again, stopping completely for some of that time to catch your breath, fine. Make your 3rd run of the week a little bit longer. See if you can go for 2.5 miles using that run-walk method. And again, over time, you're going to be building up a little bit. Another thing to think about is during whatever part of your training, just know that some workouts, walks, runs are going to feel better than others. There were times like 2 months into my half marathon training, I'd go from having a long run that felt awesome, that I was like so proud of myself. I just ran a distance that I've never run before. And then maybe a few days later, I'd be running a much shorter distance, but for whatever reason, and there's always like a multitude of reasons, I felt like crap. And I was like miserable and getting really down on myself during the run because I was like, why, am I struggling like this right now? Like I just did X amount of miles this past Sunday. Now it's Wednesday and I feel like crap this whole time. It's going to happen. Like not every workout, not every run, not every walk is going to feel great. As long as you do them and just add in, again, that overall progressive effort, it'll make things easier. And it's okay. It's okay for every single run to not feel like you are Sha'Carri Richardson on the track. It's just not going to happen. Another big thing, speaking of like not feeling good, knowing the difference between being injured and just being sore. Especially if you're someone that's starting, let's say, at like a lower threshold of endurance or fitness, it's going to hit. It hit for me. That's for absolute certain. Like I was starting at a point where, like I said in my first video, I had been a pretty active person, but then in the couple years just prior to me starting this, like doing workouts was very few and far between compared to what I had done in the past. So just starting on this new routine of like adding in and doing, 4 or 5 sessions a week, it kicked my butt at first. Like I was sore a lot. My muscles were like, hey, you haven't used me in a while, and this kind of sucks. And that is just a part of it. If you're sore, that's one thing, right? And it's good because once you build on being sore, once you kind of just keep going, your body's going to get conditioned. You'll be less sore over time, and your body's going to get used to that workload. You're also going to be getting stronger. And so that muscle soreness, maybe it won't completely go away, but it's going to be lessened, and you're going to be able to tolerate it because you're used to it over time. Now, injury is completely different, but injury we can usually figure out is an injury because something happened. So maybe you hyperextended your leg when you were walking or running, and you felt, yourself tweak your knee. Or you were running on grass and you roll your ankle and now your ankle hurts. Stuff like that. I'm not a doctor. Listen to your body. Don't play with it. If you try to keep pushing yourself and you've actually injured yourself, that's a different story. You don't want to completely halt your progress altogether. Like, I don't know, go get it checked out or take some time off, but don't try to push yourself if you're actually injured. Like exercise, like I said, it's going to make you sore. It's all about kind of micro tears to your muscles. It's just what happens. But again, if you're actually injured, don't overdo it because you may end up kind of thwarting all your progress because, now you can't do the race you have set for yourself because you can't do anything on that ankle, that knee, whatever. Another thing is that along the way, your journey and your workouts, some may get upended a little bit. Like life happens. I work a full-time job. So trying to train and have all these training days and having a personal life and this and that, it gets really difficult. It gets really bogged down. So some training days, they may change on a dime. You may have like an hour-long workout planned and then suddenly you're working late. Suddenly, you have kids and something comes up with kids or just anything comes up and now you either can't do that workout or maybe instead of an hour-long workout, well, now you only have like 15 or 30 minutes. If you have the 15 or 30 minutes and you still want to do something instead of just like tossing the day out, think about what you can do to push yourself in that 15, 30-minute time frame. So again, whatever your fitness level is at the point that you're at, think about like, how can I maximize this? Because I don't get that hour. How can I like push it and still get some good progressive training in? Or, you're going to have like a rest day during the week or an active rest day. Some days, it looked pretty on the calendar, all written out perfectly, but now you have to switch rest day over here and, and do that workout then. It happens. Just like be easy on yourself, be gracious towards yourself because life is going to get in the way and that's just what it is. And I had to really kind of think about that because I'm a person where I like to see it written out and I would get super down on myself. I also, suffer with health issues, which again, go back to the first video. If you didn't watch that, it gives you the full rundown. But there was times I'd have a flare up or something happen and suddenly, this whole week, and that just happened to me last week, actually. So a whole week of marathon training kind of went down the drain until I was like, you know what? You're going to miss some sessions. It is what it is. That's just where I'm at. And I just kind of had to plan about how I'm going to make up for that. So those, I think, are really good kind of starting points to think about and just kind of little tips to keep in mind because it's just not always going to be easy. I think a lot of times we watch like videos of somebody else doing it and a lot of people are very like transparent about it, but sometimes we see like highlight reels. We see people that have like these, kind of perfectly laid out routines and then they have these perfect races. We see all the highlights. We don't see a lot of this grit. We don't see a lot of the things that pop up and just kind of are a nuisance along the way. In the beginning, when I decided I wanted to do this, I was at a point where I could run maybe like a mile, and that was kind of it. I would get like exhausted. I was like out of breath. So I started my training plan thinking about how am I just going to build? Because what you want to do is wherever you're starting from, you want to kind of do like 3 sessions a week of that cardio. So whether you're starting at like walking and building up from there to get to running, or if you're running like I was, but just at like a lower pace and lower mileage, think about realistically where you're at right now. Because if you try to push it, it's not going to go good. You might get injured or you just might burn yourself out. It's not fun. So I was doing like, okay, I'll do a mile run here. The next run I do, maybe I'll do 1.5, 2 miles. And then my long run at the end of the week, maybe it'll be 2.5 or 3 miles. And that's where I started. And every week I was just building on that. So every long run at the end of the week, I was just adding like a little bit more onto it. Maybe in the beginning, it might have been like a half mile, then it started bumping up to miles. Then maybe by the time I was getting my endurance up and running was, a lot easier for me because of all the consistency I put in, maybe it was 2 miles. I will say, because I had about 5 months of my training. Like I decided I wanted to do this in about November. And at that time, I remember at the end of November, I was actually able to run 5 miles. And when I got off the treadmill, I thought to myself, like, wow, that was all I had planned. I don't want to push it. I don't have enough fuel in me. But I was like, I could have kept going. I definitely could have kept going. And it was that moment where I was like, there was no reason why I could not run 13.1 miles. So over time, my long runs, the longest one I did at the end of training was 10 miles. Some people that maybe haven't trained for like a longer race, they think, well, oh my God, I have to be able to run that distance. Like that's what the race is going to be. And that's where I have to get to in training to make sure I can do it. Absolutely not. So first and foremost, the training is really the hardest part of the entire experience. Like once you actually get to the race itself, yeah, it might not be easy. It's going to be really challenging. But the training comparatively and all the time you put in, like for me, I feel like that's the hard part. So by the time I got to my first half marathon, like I said, the longest that I had run was 10 miles. Really what gets you through it is first and foremost, all the endurance that you build up over all your training sessions, the adrenaline of the race itself, and like the excitement of it. Because it was really cool. I mean, there was people in this particular half marathon, there was like spectators everywhere. There's people cheering you on. There's aid stations and people being really encouraging, and just your fellow runners too, like looking around and seeing other people that were kind of like in the trenches with you doing the darn thing. It really keeps you going. I also ran my first one with a friend. Her and I trained together and we stuck by each other the entire time. So even if there was times where she needed to walk a little bit, I would still kind of just try to keep a light jog and just kind of kept my pace with her so we could stay together up until the very end. I told her that right at the end, I might just like dog to the finish line, which is what happened. But yeah, it was really just that last, like not even quarter mile was the only time we really split up. Don't think about like, I have to go that distance. It's absolutely not true. And you might get injured doing it and you might burn yourself out during training. So that way race day comes up and it might suck. So yeah, that first half marathon was a really, really fun experience. I had a great time, especially doing it with a friend. And that's another thing. If you can convince a friend of yours to go on this journey with you, even if it's not a half, because it absolutely does not have to be like a couch to half marathon pipeline. Like it could be a 5K, a 10K, a 1 mile run, like whatever you want it to be. There's tons of races out there. I will put the link down below where I look for races. It's been super helpful. You can kind of search by area. You can do like, within 50 miles of me or however much distance you want to cover. And you can look at all races in that area for like the months and months and months to come. So yeah, find something that works for you. We had a great time. We were smiling. It was really cool to accomplish that goal. Cause like I said, I mean, like it was only a few months, 5 months prior that I even got this idea in my head. So to cross that finish line was amazing. And another thing I want to talk about too is that my thing throughout this whole entire training plan and the marathon itself, that first half marathon, I ran slowly. I was not trying to go for some cool, crazy time. Especially for the first one, I was like, I just literally want to do it. Like, I want to cross the finish line and have accomplished that goal. So I have nothing to prove. I'm not trying to, kill myself out there because I am gunning it. So yeah, I mean, there's no shame in a slower pace. During that first half, especially when I was like, pacing with my friend who took, some walking breaks here and there, our average mile time was like 13 to 13 and a half minute miles. There's nothing wrong with that at all. While I'm actually on that subject, another thing for race day, if you're going to get there, is don't start off fast. It's super easy to see everybody kind of like shoot out like a rocket and you have all this adrenaline because it's race day and you want to just like start gunning it. Don't do it. Don't do it, especially for a long race, because that will bite you so hard later on. Stick with your pace. So if you have like an Apple Watch, a Garmin, just something that's kind of keeping your pace or showing you, stick with it, stick with your plan, because you don't want to burn the candle too hard at the beginning and then have nothing left. And that's another, I think, good tip to share, and something that I focused on. And especially again, for that first half marathon, I really kind of like instilled in my friend and me that did it, is you want to have a plan for the race. Even if you want to do a really impressive time, or if you're like us that just want to do it, finish well, and finish feeling good overall, like you didn't just completely knock yourself out, you want to have a plan. So our plan was start very nice and easy. I mean, very conversational pace. We could talk if we wanted to the whole time, because I feel like sometimes the first 2 miles are always feel to me like a lot harder for some reason. Like I'm not warmed up yet. So we started off very nice and easy. Just let our bodies kind of warm up naturally. Midpoint was where we kind of started to pick up the pace a little bit. So our mile times got down to I think 13 or 12 and a half minute miles overall. And that's when we kind of started to put in the effort a little bit. Near the end, we dialed it back a little bit again, just to make sure that we kind of had legs under us to go through the finish line. So you can kind of take with that what you will. But I think just to have whatever plan you want for whatever time you want, it's just a really smart strategy, and it keeps you from, again, burning yourself out too quickly. So that was the first half. Going into my second half marathon, and this is something that I signed up for pretty quickly after the first one. It was also only a month after the first half marathon where I was just like, I'm in it. I want to do this. That was so much fun. And also, too, because I had done the first one with a friend and kind of paced with her, I was like, I would love to do one by myself and just see what my time would be, if I was just kind of relying only on me. But what I didn't know was signing up for this next half marathon, I knew it was a trail race, but on the website, there wasn't really an overview map of the course. The first half I did, there was an absolute course map. You could see street by street where you were going. The second half, nope. So when it got to a week out, I finally emailed them because my boyfriend and a couple of my friends that wanted to go and cheer me on at the finish were like, where's the finish? Is it a loop? Are you going out and back? What's happening? So I emailed them. They sent me the course map, and I realized that I was going to be essentially climbing up a mountain at the finish. Now, we don't have it's not the West Coast, so we're not going up insane mountains, but still, it was I just realized it was going to be brutal. Another big caveat was right before this half marathon, I had kind of done kept on the training plan I was already on for the first half, but it was only the week before that I actually lost a pet, which was devastating. And it really threw me off. That couple days surrounding that time for those last few kind of crucial workouts before that taper week, they didn't happen. So race day was challenging. It was a lot of fun, but it was very challenging. Just particularly because it was not a road race, like the first one that I did. What I relied on that time was just determination to do it. I wrote my pet's name, the one that I passed, on my wrist. So I kind of kept looking at that for motivation during the race when things got really hard. And that's another good tip too, is have a why, right? Think about someone or something that's going to encourage you along the way. And for that particular race too, there was no spectators because you were out pretty much on a mountain trail. I really didn't see anybody because we had really thinned out. There was only about 14 people total that did the half in the first place, and a lot of them were really fast. I was nowhere near anybody. Having kind of a why in your head, why you want to do this, something that's motivating you, whether that be music you're listening to, a podcast, a book on tape that you're listening to throughout the run. Have something for yourself that is going to push yourself and just help you kind of just get one foot in front of the other. But that race, by the time I finished it, I was so proud of myself. And I actually finished that one faster than the first half marathon I did. So I was super proud of that. And that comes to the last half marathon that I did, which was only a few weekends ago. Like I said, kind of for the second one, I've just kind of continued that half marathon training throughout this whole time. And that's kind of made it easier. There have been significant breaks for some, health reasons or just life, things like that. But overall, I've tried to maintain that same scheduling. So having a long run once a week, if possible, with my health, having, the other workouts, having the other runs during the week. It's just been kind of a schedule that I've just kind of adapted to at this point. Now, there might be, some individuals out there that do not agree with that. That is fine. We're all different individual people. For me, that's just it's worked. It's kind of helped keep me just in this rhythm. But the third half marathon I did was a lot of fun. I realized that, first off, buying new shoes before a race is a risky little game. So the first 2 half marathons I did, I wore these bad boys right here. They are nice and dirty. Yeah, these are the Adizero Boston 12s. Let's put it up there because I don't know if I'm pronouncing that. These bad boys. And this is an awesome shoe. Really is. They were comfortable. There's enough space in your toes. That's another big thing. You got to have the right gear. So those shoes were crucial. The toe space that my toes weren't jamming into the front, anything like that. I didn't get blisters at any point in any 3 of the half marathons that I did. Those have been treating me well, but I got carbon plated running shoes. It's basically the same shoe. They're Adizeros, but they are carbon plated. Now these things, oh my God. Yeah, I definitely go a little bit faster in them. That was my issue with the third race, was that I started off and I had such a hard time pacing myself because they were kind of just propelling me a little bit more than these other shoes I'd been used to. Didn't get any blisters, nothing like that. But yeah, no, I was burning myself out. So that's a big tip right there as well. Gear, things like that, you have to train with it. You have to make sure it's comfortable. You have to make sure it works for you because that really came back to bite me. Now, overall, I did finish my third half marathon faster than my previous 2, which again has not been my goal, and I'm still not going fast. But I was proud of that. I was proud of the effort I put in, especially kind of doing that one on a whim. The reason I signed up for that half marathon was because it was sort of local. It was pretty close by. And right now in marathon training, some of my long runs are about 13 miles, now 13 or more going these last final weeks. So I was like, you know what? It'll be a great part of my training. It'll be fun. It'll be sort of an easier long run to do than just going out doing it on my own. There's going to be, some people alongside me. But the shoes bit me. So that's another big thing is your gear. Another thing that I really like that I got myself before the first half marathon, I was doing training runs with it. I did long runs with it to make sure it was comfortable. But I got this running belt off of Amazon. It's got a nice pocket. If you have headphones with a cord, which I don't see that a lot anymore, no shame to that, but I just don't see a lot of it. There's a little hole for a cord to come through if you have your phone in here. It came with 2 water bottles. They're just in my dishwasher right now. But these little water bottle holders on either side. This thing was great. I loved it. I put gels in there. I had my phone in there. I had the little water bottles on each side with electrolytes and stuff like that. That was kind of like my little journey with some tips thrown in there and just a long rambly story of my first few half marathons. But yeah, so I hope any of this may be helpful to anybody. If not, it'll be fun for me to look back on and just have some clips of me getting to the finish lines and some kind of behind the scenes of me, doing my little training and this and that. But that's that. My next few videos are going to be more about my marathon training right now. I'm currently in 5 weeks out as I'm speaking today. So yeah, I'll be doing kind of just throughout the week, capturing what I'm doing and then just showing a full week of training. And then sooner than later, we'll be at marathon day. Yeah, if you're out there and watching this, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that maybe it gave you some motivation. I hope maybe it gave you some encouragement that if you ever want to run a half, you totally freaking can. That if you're a slow runner, you are totally valid and awesome, and there's no need for you to be a track star out there. The fact that you're doing it at all is the coolest part about it, and just celebrate yourself wherever you're at. Stick around, and more marathon training on the way.